let's watch this one. Last photos with disturbing backstories. Lazy Masquerade. It's not going to be happy, but it's fitting the atmosphere, I guess. Actually, what's not fitting the atmosphere is like last 3 days it's been dark and rainy, but today when I'm doing this Halloween stream, it's freaking like full sunlight. It's cold, but it's full sunlight, so it doesn't fit the atmosphere.
Today's video is sponsored by Raycon. I've really been trying to stick...
You know what? I've already watched his Raycon sponsor before, so I'll pass it, but about 10 Raycon.
On May 12, 2022, the badly decomposed remains of a still unidentified woman were discovered in a wooded area in Wadesboro, North Carolina, just west of a National Guard armory. The deceased, a scantily clad white female, estimated to have been between 20 and 40 years of age, couldn't be linked to any missing persons reports in the area. In lieu of her real name, whatever that may be, she was given the moniker Anson County Jane Doe. She was estimated to have perished at some point in 2021. Unusually, at the time of her demise, the only clothing that the woman was wearing was a black Secret Treasures bra and a pair of leggings.
Secret Treasure?
Her cause of death has never been officially announced. While attempting to identify the woman, the most compelling, and easily the most disturbing lead the authorities came upon were several images captured by a trail cam close to where the doe's remains were found. The cam had been installed in a hunting zone near the armory to monitor a deer feeder. But instead of deer, it captured these.
Damn. Yeah, she's...
Images of an unknown woman wearing the same clothes as found on the doe's body, stumbling through the woodland on August 22nd, 2021. She was first recorded that night at 1:33 AM, entering the frame on the right. In the next image, captured a second later as the clock struck 1:34, she isn't visible at all, suggesting that she was running at the time.
Okay.
She later appeared again at 4:30 and 4:31
Coming from a different
AM,
direction?
this time hobbling in the opposite direction and using a large stick to support herself. This woman was strongly believed to be the Anson County Jane Doe, and though they didn't know why this lone female was wandering through the dense forest in the middle of the night,
attacked and she's trying to
detectives now at least had a face to work with. Forensic investigators analysed the images, but weren't able to draw many conclusions. It appeared as if the woman's leggings were wet above her knees, as was the lower half of her stick. That suggested that she had crossed a body of water, likely Culpeper Creek. She had perhaps slipped and hurt herself while doing so, hence the walking stick.
Maybe.
Some theorize that she was suffering from a mental breakdown, but others have suggested an even darker possibility.
I mean, it could be a lot of things.
That she was being held somewhere remote against her will, and with no time to get dressed, she had seized an opportunity to escape. Proponents of that theory believe that she ultimately met her end at the hands of her captor, who had somehow managed to track her down. Whatever did become of this woman, it's truly chilling to look over these images and imagine what her final hours must have been like. Wandering alone through the woods, lost in unending blackness.
Yeah, I can't imagine.
In February 2022.
I'm terrified of like the woods during the day, so during the night like that, like barely closed, trying to walk around in the night, and the fact that it seems like she was lost to the point of like passing 2 times in the same spot. Terrible.
6 months after the trail cam footage was captured, and a few months before the doe's remains were discovered, rabbit hunters stumbled upon a backpack containing an unspecified sum of cash close to the armory. They took the cash and abandoned the backpack in the forest. When news of the doe's discovery spread, they brought the existence of the backpack to the authorities' attention. Unfortunately, to this day, that backpack hasn't been found. Despite providing relatively clear images of the doe's face, the trail cam footage didn't result in any new leads. At least, none that the authorities have publicly announced.
It's not tied to any person?
Local law enforcement have remained unusually tight-lipped about this whole case, not releasing a description of the woman's remains, her cause of death, the colour of her hair, or even a description of the missing backpack. No major news outlets have reported on the story either, and it feels to many as if little's being done to solve this case. As one anonymous local resident put it, I sure hope I never go missing in Anson County. in conjunction with these creepy images, it's that silence that's fueled so much online interest in this story. With so many questions and so few answers, the doe's identity has become a huge topic of discussion here on YouTube, over on Reddit, and perhaps most importantly, on Facebook. Attempt to Locate is a Facebook group with 123,000 followers, a place for users to share photos related to UIDs, or unidentified decedents, and attempt to link them to the case files of missing persons. And while discussing these images of Anson County Jane Doe, several
we have a
users
face,
brought
like,
up this
it
woman,
shouldn't be that hard, huh?
Amber Ray Johnston, a 36-year-old mother from Mojave County, Arizona.
I don't see the resemblance.
One who's been missing since August 2021. To quote her page on missingpersoncenter.org, Amber was last seen in Bullhead City in August 2021. She left all her personal belongings at her apartment. Her boyfriend left around that same time and went to Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, and Amber was supposed to take a bus to Myrtle Beach on August 16th and meet him there. In her last Facebook post on August 19th, she streamed live from a bus before getting off at Winston-Salem.
Okay.
She hasn't been heard from since, and it's not clear whether she arrived in Myrtle Beach or not. Curiously, Amber's food stamp card was used by another woman after her disappearance. The woman, when contacted, said Amber's boyfriend had sold her the card. In the months prior to her disappearance, Amber had been using drugs and acting paranoid. Her case remains unsolved, and the circumstances are unclear. Amber Johnston bears an undeniable resemblance to the woman captured on the trail cam.
Okay, now actually,
her lost correspondence
I see the
lines
joke.
up perfectly with when the footage was recorded.
I see the Joe, actually.
This lead has
You're
since
right.
been brought to the authorities' attention, and it's
You're
yet to
right.
be confirmed whether Amber truly is the doe or not. Given just how much attention this case has received as of late though, I'd wager that the local authorities will dedicate more resources to identifying her, and that she'll be given her name back in the near future.
Yeah.
Until then, Anson County Jane remains one of the USA's 14,000 unidentified decedents. I'll be sure to
14,000?
keep you all posted
Okay.
about any breakthroughs on my social media accounts.
Kind of. Rest in peace, as always. Sad story. Snehanshu Sharma. Snehanshu.
This is the last known photo of Snehanshu Sharma, a smart and cheerful 8-year-old boy from Hooghly, West Bengal. As reported by India Today, the boy met his end on February 16th, 2024, when he accidentally witnessed his mother, Shanta Sharma, in a, quote, compromising position with her secret lesbian partner, Ifat Parveen.
Damn.
Snehanshu became distraught when he saw his mother betraying his father. Little did he realize that his father, Pankaj, already knew about his wife's secret love affair, which had been
So
going on
it's
since
all
before they
good?
got married.
It was all
But he
good?
had chosen to keep silent about it. Shanta tried to persuade her son to keep quiet too, but even after talking things over with him, she and Dishrat feared that he might reveal their secret to someone.
Wait, did she
Although
kill her
lesbian
own son?
relationships are legal in India, in certain areas they're considered extremely taboo and socially unacceptable.
Yeah.
Terrified of a social backlash that could ruin their lives, both Shanta and Ifat did the unthinkable.
Oh my god, seriously?
Together, they pinned Snehanshu down, stabbed him several times with a vegetable knife so forcefully that the blade bent, and struck him in the head with an iron rod and a stone idol.
Okay, what the
They did all
fuck?
this while the boy's father, Pankaj, was at work, and when the only witness at the home was the family dog, Shadow. However, when Snehanshu's cousin came over and discovered the boy's lifeless body inside the home, investigators...
I really thought the story was going like, you know, like he literally run away from home after seeing that. Like, I thought this was the story, not that he fucking got killed by his mom and her lover. Like, that's so cooked. Insanity.
were quickly summoned and were able to identify his killers. Shanta and Nifat's mobile data placed them inside the house with Snehanshu at the time his life came to an end, as did surveillance footage captured by a neighbor. Forensic experts also found traces of Snehanshu's vital fluid on both of their clothes and on the stone idol inside the family home. They were arrested 4 days after the slaying, at which point Shanta confessed to taking her son's life out of fear of social embarrassment and ostracization
Social embarrassment.
Deputy Commissioner Biswas stated to the media, "The relationship between Shanta and Ifat was an old one. They used to talk."
At the same time, I was gonna say, like, this seems kind of insane and random, but at the same time, if she was actually, like, lesbian, she might have been forced to marry a guy. Like, in India, they still have a lot of that culture of, like, you don't really get to choose. And so she might literally, like, have resented her son, as she probably maybe didn't even want him. Not saying that this is right, obviously, but that might be more of the motive than just social ostracization being like what she was scared of, because I feel like that's not enough to kill your son over, right?
Phone for hours past midnight. Based on multiple pieces of evidence, we zeroed in on these two women. Shanta was arrested from her home, and Ifat from hers.
Insane.
Both women are currently being held in police custody, awaiting their trial. Snahangshu's father is calling for his wife and her partner to be hanged.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, rip.
On September 20th, 2022, Emma Brown, age 12, was firing guns with her father, Daniel Brown, at their home in Poolville, Texas. Daniel ran a firearms business, and Emma had grown up around guns and ammo.
USA.
That afternoon, the pair posed together for a photo before their joint target practice.
I mean, I can tell where this is going. Who's shooting who? Like, who's shooting who by accident?
What Daniel didn't know in that moment was that his daughter had other plans in mind, which she had morbidly hinted at by wearing a Harry Potter t-shirt with the quote, "I solemnly swear that I am up to no good."
Okay.
The 7th grader had secretly been planning a murder pact with an online friend. Both girls had mutually agreed to take out their entire families, including their pets, before running away together.
Why the pets?
According to chat logs, Emma planned to steal her parents' car, pick up her accomplice, and drive 230 miles to Georgia. Shortly after this image was taken, Emma intentionally fired a shot into her father's abdomen. After incapacitating her father, Emma took off down the driveway and walked about 100 yards down the road. But for whatever reason, she aborted her plan, and instead of making her way to Georgia, fired a single shot into her own head. Officers later arrived at the scene
that's what she did,
and found Emma lying in the dirt road. She passed away 2 days later in a local hospital.
Damn.
Her father, Daniel, survived his injuries. Emma's partner in crime, who also happened to be a 7th grader, was picked up.
Can you imagine? I mean, like, obviously, let's not even go about the gun control debate, as, it's always like the biggest topic about America, right? Like, I think the incident speaks for itself. But like, can you imagine, like, your fucking daughter shot you and then killed herself? And you learn that, it's only because she has a change of heart, otherwise she was going to kill the rest of the family. And you survived. That's insane. I mean, I said that about every case, but like, how do you live after that? Man.
By the authorities at her home in Lufkin, and was charged with conspiracy to commit murder.
So the other one didn't do it.
Thankfully, she had either backed out of their mutual pact, or never intended to go through with the plan in the first place, as her family were unharmed. She was fully prosecuted and sentenced in March 2023. Neither her name nor her sentence have been revealed to the public due to her age, and it's unclear how she and Emma had met, or why they both intended to eliminate their families and run off together.
I can't even believe the way like you were shot like that. I mean, man, insanity. People are insane. I mean, don't trust anybody. Orlando Freefall. Oh shit.
Icon Park's Orlando Freefall was touted by its operators as the tallest freestanding drop tower in the world. The attraction lifted riders in a gondola 430 feet above the ground, before inclining the seats forward 30 degrees and plunging them into a freefall, breaking 100 feet above the ground.
Was falling
Riders
down.
were only meant to experience a 4G thrill, a mild stomach upset, and a few laughs. But on March 24th, 2022,
so it's the same park,
things ended very differently for one park guest. Tyree Sampson was just 14 when he fell to his demise from the Orlando Freefall drop tower. The adolescent.
Frankly, like, I've always been kind of scared of like this kind of the crazier kind of ride in theme park. Like I was talking about earlier about like traveling fair, and sometimes they had like one of those, not exactly like the one we saw, but something that like it's the same thing, like basically like a ride with seats at the back of a truck, and it's supposed to like it goes on the side like this, pretty fast. I remember doing that once when I was young, and I was already like not feeling very secure in the seat. And then later, like when I was 18 or something, another traveling fair, there was one that was like, you know, much more like crazy in the way it moved. It was like this arm basically with a bunch of seats in a circle, and the arm would like take the seat in the air and just spin them on itself while the arm itself was moving around. And frankly, I didn't want to do it at first because I'm pretty scared of height and this seemed pretty insane. But I ended up doing it. And what I remember is that like, the only safety is that this kind of like metal brace that they put over you. But frankly, like I was actually sleeping out of the seat as it was happening. I remember like, I was already a big boy, so it's weird, but the metal brace thing, there was quite a gap between my body and it. And this thing was like so, in movement, like the G-force was incredible. I mean, I could barely hold on. And I felt like I was sleeping out of the seat, so I had to literally like hold to the brace of the thing. And I remember like someone lost their shoe and just flew into the crowd. So it's the kind of thing where, even like the simpler like ride like this seemed terrifying, and I'm never like getting on one again, except if you pay me like $1 million. But otherwise, yeah, like it was supposed to be like a pretty normal one. And I remember like how much I felt like I was being pulled out of the seat, and I was sure I was going to fall. So yeah, all I'm saying is I'm not doing any of this stuff again.
Originally from St.
No,
Louis,
thank you.
had been on vacation in Florida with his family and a friend. When he and his buddy made it to the front of the line for the drop tower, staff were immediately concerned with the boy's size. The tower's manual specified a weight limit of 287 pounds for the ride. Tyree, who stood at 6'5" and weighed 383 pounds, was too large to fit safely into the seat. As such, the harness sensor in Tyree's seat had to be manually adjusted, loosened, and then tightened again, creating a larger gap than normal.
That's such an obviously terrible idea. I mean, why would you even risk that as a park employee? Like, I'm sure there's a bunch of other people who will pay to get into it. Like, this is insane. Ferris wheel? I've never been on one, yeah. Ferris wheel, I think I might be fine with. It's slow,
Between his harness and the seat. The young attendant assisting Tyree had only been working at the park for 3 days, was still technically a trainee, and believed that because the adjustment had made the indicator light turn green, that it was safe to proceed with the ride.
Oh my god.
Moments before the ride was activated.
Why would you even, like, if I'm a park employee, I wouldn't risk it. Like, I'm literally going to kill someone if I fuck up. So, of course, I'm not going to try to adjust anything. Yeah, actually, this is kind of what I was sitting in. It was this kind of like brace, basically like this, except there was like a bigger gap and I was kind of sleeping under it.
Tyree could tell that something wasn't right, and reportedly said to his friend beside him, "I don't know, man. If I don't make it down safely, can you please tell my mama and daddy that I love them?" This photo shows Tyree seconds before the gondola began to rise. His shoulder bar was noticeably looser than his fellow riders.
Can't tell.
After the ride reached its target height of 430 feet, Tyree began to panic, realizing that he wasn't properly secured. But by that point, it was too late. The ride went into freefall.
Fuck.
The brakes applied, and because of the G-force, Tyree was effectively sucked through the gap in his harness and hurtled to the concrete, smashing into the ground head first. He died shortly after impact. Video footage of this incident exists, but for obvious reasons, I don't recommend seeking it out.
Yeah.
The visuals, and in particular, the sound.
Well, the point of the ride is like the feeling, right? Like the ride that I've done myself, it's like you literally feel your inside kind of like the G-force, right? Like, I guess people like that feel. Personally, I didn't like it, but yeah, like, this kind of movements we're not supposed to do as a human. So you feel like this very, very, very weird, like G-force feeling inside you. So I guess that's kind of the point of it. Like, with this crazy speed, you just feel this crazy feeling and adrenaline. I mean, technically it's safe, right? Like, crazy amusement park ride like this, I mean, out of like the millions of people who have done it, only one die once in a while, but I'd still say, I'd rather stay away from it.
Absolutely soul-crushing.
Yeah.
Even worse, when viewing it, it's apparent that nobody immediately helped the boy, and park employees can be heard trying to pass the blame.
Huh.
A lawsuit filed by Tyree's family claimed that there were no visible weight limits or scales at the ride location. After learning the details of what happened, I can't help but wonder, why wasn't he turned away? Said Tyree's mother.
Right.
He'd been refused on other rides, so why not this one? I understand he's a child. He insisted on riding with his friend. I get that. But as an adult or a ride attendant, that decision should have been made. His feelings might have been hurt, but he would still be here with me.
Yeah, and he wouldn't have killed someone.
His family filed a wrongful death suit against the owners of the amusement park and settled for an undisclosed amount. The ride has since been dismantled.
Another rip, yeah. Another rip.
On July 6, 2023, 2 students disappeared from India's northeastern state of Manipur. Hijam Linthongambi, a 17-year-old Meitei Hindu, had been attending tutorials that morning and was later captured on CCTV riding on a motorbike with her friend, Fijam Hemanjith, aged 20. When both youngsters failed to return home that evening, their families reported them missing. For over 2 months, their whereabouts and well-being remained a mystery. Both sets of parents clung on to hope that their children would be found alive and well. That is, until late September, when this photo went viral on social media.
Oh, damn.
The image shows both missing students seated together in an outdoor wooded area. Linthongambi wears a mask and looks directly at the camera with a scared expression.
They look like prisoners,
while Hemanjith's gaze is averted and empty. 2 armed individuals, their captors, can be observed in the background.
Damn.
Members of the rival Kuki Christian community who had forced the 2 students into one of their trucks at gunpoint.
Kuki Christian community.
In May of 2023, violence had erupted between the Meitei people, who make up the majority of those living in the Yamphal Valley region of Manipur, and the Kuki-zo tribal community, who called the surrounding hills home. The Kuki people have long complained about feeling marginalized and persecuted by the Meiteis, who hold most of the Kuki people.
This is one of, I guess that makes sense. This is between Bangladesh and Myanmar. Myanmar in civil wars for like some years, and Bangladesh just had like a revolution. This is really like the kind of place where there's constant like, armed rebels and tension and stuff like that. Yeah, it's pretty bad.
So tribal community, who called the surrounding hills home. The Kuki people have long complained about feeling marginalized and persecuted by the Meiteis, who hold more sway with the state government, and tensions came to a boiling point when the Meiteis demanded official tribal status, which would allow them to buy land and settle in predominantly Kuki areas. To date, approximately 200 people have been killed during the conflict, more than 1,000 injured, 60,000 displaced, and countless women essayed and publicly humiliated. It's safe to say that atrocities have been committed by both sides. Now, I'm by no means an expert, but from my understanding, the Kukis have a legitimate grievance with how the state government favors Meitei people. However, in this case, Kuki militants seem to have taken their frustrations out on 2 innocent young people,
as it often is,
to make an example out of them. By the time this image had surfaced online, the conflict had become so inflamed that curfews and internet blackouts were ordered. Another blackout was issued after it was posted too, leading many to hope that peaceful negotiations may result in Linthongambi and Hemanjith's safe release. But when normal internet services returned on September 25th, a second picture began circulating online. One that showed the bodies of the 2 students lying in a pit. They were wearing the same clothes as seen in this image, and it's believed that they were executed mere moments after it was taken, likely as revenge against the Meiteis. Hijam Shantikumar, Linthongambi's uncle, revealed that these images had broken the poor girl's mother.
I can imagine.
She's devastated and faints every few minutes, he stated. She had been anxiously awaiting any news of her daughter's safety, of her return. We had to show her the images to accept that she will never return.
Damn.
Never. The government has utterly failed. There is no governance here. For the past 3 months, they've suspended the internet. Without internet, we'd have never learned about their deaths.
Right.
During a protest held in Yamphal, thousands of students rallied to demand justice for Linthongambi and Hemanjith. At least 45 protesters sustained injuries following clashes with the authorities, who deployed tear gas and fired rubber pellets. I want to assure the people that both the state and central government are closely collaborating to apprehend them.
Classic government, right? Like, you know, in police, they're so good at hurting the protesters, but so bad at dealing with the gangs, the rebels, the cartels, and all that. It's easy to deal with the protesters, though.
The culprits, Chief Minister Singh stated on Twitter. On October 1st, 2023, 4 adults were arrested in connection with the slaying of the students. 2 men, Palminlan Haukep and Smallsom Haukep.
Recently too, yeah.
And 2 women, Linachong Baitakuki and Tinaling Hintang. If found guilty, they'll face the death penalty for taking the lives of 2 young, innocent students, caught up in the crossfire of a conflict that they didn't start, that they didn't participate in.
Yeah, right.
And that they didn't ask for.
Nothing to do with it and you still die. I mean, fucking hell. So sad.
Darren Charles Mitchell, 21, was a National Guardsman and father from Navasota, Texas. May 26, 2016 was a torrentially rainy day in that part of the Lone Star State, and as Darren travelled down Highway 105 just outside of Brenham, his truck became trapped in flash floodwater which washed out the road. He clambered out into the bed of the vehicle and called his brother to let him know the situation, that he was trapped but still alive. But the floodwater continued to rise at an alarming rate.
Oh boy.
A high percentage of flood-related fatalities come from being hit by debris, and so, perhaps fearing being struck or washed away, Darren clambered back into the driver's side seat. Shortly thereafter, at 6:29 p.m, he posted this photo to his Facebook page. The caption read, "All I wanted to do was go home."
Then obviously I saw a bunch of stuff kind of similar to that recently with Florida having crazy typhoon and tornadoes and everything. You know, for a long time I never really realized that bad it was in the US, the weather situation. But like over the last few years I've realized, yeah, it's pretty insane. I mean, like, you know, they have some of the craziest weather incidents. It's pretty insane.
But Darren would never get to go home again.
As always, it makes me really thankful that I live in a country which, you know, for the most part, we don't have earthquake, we don't have crazy typhoon, we don't have tornadoes and stuff like that. Like the worst we might have is like hail, you know, like the ball of ice falling that happens sometime.
Moments after uploading this photo, his vehicle became fully submerged.
Damn.
One local resident, LaShondo Smith, watched in horror as Darren's truck was swept away by the water. All of a sudden, he got back in his truck, and like maybe 10-15 minutes after that, it just flipped and he topsided into the water. It just disappeared. You didn't see tires, his truck, nothing.
Damn.
The following morning, Darren's body was found downstream in Kirkendall Creek. He was far from the only person who lost their life during that flood.
I assume, yeah.
Layla Holland, 64, drowned when floodwaters consumed her home. Jimmy Wayne Schaefer, 49, was swept away in his vehicle. Florida Malima, 23, drowned in her car. And Purali Umatia, 59, was found lifeless in Yegwa Creek.
The power of nature. Tragic, as always, tragic.
On October 22nd, 1999,
the parachute didn't happen, I assume.
Santa Barbara resident Jan Davis attempted a base jump from El Capitan in Yosemite Park.
Attempted.
Davis's jump was part of an organized civil act of disobedience, protesting new regulations which made base jumping illegal in Yosemite without a permit. By leaping from El Capitan, the group hoped to prove a simple point: that base jumping.
And you're going to die doing it. Like, trying to prove the point that it should be okay for regular people to do it, you're going to get to die. Oh my god.
Was completely safe, and that it shouldn't be outlawed.
Oh my god.
The protest was organized in reaction to the drowning death of fellow jumper Frank Gambale III on June 9th.
Third?
Frank had successfully parachuted from El Capitan, but drowned in the river below while attempting to escape from rangers, once who were staking out the mountain to catch jumpers breaking the new regulation.
Okay.
Jan was the fourth of 5 jumpers who had gathered at the top of El Cap to attempt the jump. The first 3 successfully executed their jumps and received cheers from the 150 or so onlookers at ground level. These jumpers were subsequently taken into custody by rangers stationed at the bottom of the mountain. But they all anticipated this.
Yeah.
Jan herself had even dressed in an inmate's outfit, mocking what she considered a ridiculous regulation.
And you're still going to die.
At approximately 1:20 p.m, it was her turn to step up to the plate. An experienced jumper who had performed stunts in movies like Waterworld and Congo, Jan showed no signs of fear as she shimmied up to the edge of El Cap. One of her fellow protesters gave her a 10-second countdown, and with the shout of 3, 2, 1, see ya ringing in her ears, Daredevil Jan flung herself over the edge of the 3,200-foot mountain. Initially, all appeared well, but onlookers grew concerned when she didn't deploy her chute at the recommended altitude. "Pull, woman," muttered the cameraman as he watched her falling towards the rocks below at full speed. "Dude, she's got problems, man," he said a few seconds later. Jan fell for over 15 seconds before striking the talus slope at the cliff's base. She died on impact. Investigators later found out that Jan was jumping with borrowed gear, fearing that the rangers would confiscate hers upon her arrest.
안녕하세요.
Trouble was,
I mean, I guess all the ones so far were sad, and you could say this one was sad too. But you literally end up proving the point, right? Like, they're outlawing jumping without a license to prove that you know, because it's dangerous and someone already died and all that. And in protest, you also die. I mean, and from what he's saying is because she was borrowing gear, it wasn't even her own, which proved, once again, even though she was an experienced one, she didn't even make sure her own gear was working. I don't know. Like, obviously I still feel bad she died. I wouldn't say she deserved to die, but it's one of the most, like, literally, like, killing your own point, I guess. Killing your own protest.
Fearing that the rangers would confiscate hers upon her arrest. Trouble was, Jan usually pulled the cord on her back. On the borrowed jumpsuit, the cord was on her leg.
Oh my god, and you didn't even check that? How was this a professional? So, like, you're given gear that's not yours and you don't even check how it works before jumping off a cliff? Like, come on. You're jumping off a fucking cliff, you should know at least for sure where you're putting.
This likely led to confusion mid-jump, and unfortunately, spelt her doom. Base jumpers argue that by prohibiting the activity, rangers are forcing hobbyists to take unnecessary risks, such as jumping in low light and using older gear that they don't mind being confiscated. But rangers argue that the community's readiness to break their own rules is exactly why base jumping can't be allowed. And, ironically, Jan's protest jump served to highlight their point.
Yeah.
Although base jumping is still banned in Yosemite to this day, hang gliding is permitted 1 day a week from Glacier Point. The hang gliding community have always been very compliant with the regulations, said Yosemite spokesperson Scott Gayman.
Yeah, still tragic.
Whereas the base jumpers have not.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know, maybe the spot is just bad to base jump. I don't really know anything about base jumping.